true crime podcast where best friends and next-door neighbors, Willow and Lillian, spill the tea on murder, mysteries, and other things that go bump in the night. So get your favorite teacup ready, and let's get into it. Welcome to Cruelty Podcast. This is Lillian. With me is Willow.
Hello.
And this is Satan Made Me Do It month.
It's Satan month.
Satan. Mm-hmm. And y'all, this case is first of all gross, second of all sad, and third of all, I don't even know. It's a lot. So I'm not even going to banter. I'm going to get into the trigger warnings right away. Trigger warnings for sexual assault, religious trauma, necrophilia, child sexual assault, child abuse, and domestic violence.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, prepare.
Okay.
So today we're covering 3 murders that took place in Fall River, Massachusetts between October 1979 and February 1980. They were purported to be ritualistic killings done by a satanic cult. But were they? And who were the victims? And who were the perpetrators? So let's break it down. This all began on 6 a.m. on October 14th, 1979. Police were called to Dimon Vocational High School. Someone had found a body under the bleachers. And now this isn't like inside the school. This would be like out on a sports field. The victim was face down, almost naked. She had been bound with fishing wire around her ankles and wrists, and there was a baseball bat shoved inside of her.
Oh my God.
Her head had been crushed with rocks. She had been murdered the night before on the 13th. It was hard to determine her identity. I mean, yeah, obviously. During the autopsy, which took place in the hospital's basement, the technician opened the window for ventilation purposes and found a child watching the autopsy. Law enforcement chased the child away, but this is just one of the many bizarre things around this case. There's nothing that ever came of that, for the record. I just thought it was a weird little detail and wanted to include it.
Oh, there's no connection?
No.
That you know of?
No.
That's creepy, though.
It is. A composite drawing of the victim was widely circulated in an attempt to identify her. It was through this sketch that she was identified. The victim was Doreen Levesque from New Bedford, Massachusetts. She was only 17 years old and living on the streets. She had been struggling with her family and addiction issues. Doreen had turned to sex work to support herself and her drug addiction. She worked in Fall River because she didn't want people from New Bedford to know that she was a sex worker. Now, back in the late 70s and early 80s, sex work and drugs were a big issue, especially in the Northeast of the country. There would be traffic jams on Friday and Saturday nights in Fall River for the red light district. Most of the sex workers there were very young, a lot of them underage. Drug addiction, especially to cocaine and heroin, was a huge problem, not only in this area, but everywhere in the United States. And if you weren't alive during this time period, you have no idea how bad it was. It was a horrible epidemic. I mean, it's not gotten any better, because now we have fentanyl and meth. Mm-hmm. But, yeah.
Crack.
Crack. Mm-hmm. I have my own conspiracy theories on that, but people suspected the police were corrupt and being bribed to allow all this to continue, and I absolutely believe that is 100% the case in this place. Oh, I'm pissed already. Whew, calm down. Investigators initially believed Doreen was murdered by a client. They interviewed Willie Smith, an acquaintance of Doreen, that let her use his apartment for her clients. He denied any involvement, and then they went and interviewed former clients of Doreen, but none of them became proper suspects. Carl Drew was known on the streets. He was a pimp. He had an abusive, alcoholic father and a horrible childhood. Carl's father had beaten him regularly, tortured him. When Carl was 14, he ran away from home to live on the streets. He got in trouble for armed robbery and spent 6 years in prison for it. And then once he got out, he became a pimp. Sex workers who worked under Carl said he was cruel, mean, and vicious. Carl was said to drug his girls, who paid him $200 a week to protect them and keep them safe while they worked the streets. But it was clear he was using them just to make money. Carl was said to assault the sex workers he was supposed to protect. Naturally, after Doreen's murder, he became a suspect, though he wasn't Doreen's pimp. Another player in this case is a girl named Robin Murphy. She was purported to also be a pimp. She was a rival of Carl's, even though they worked together. Robin had a really rough childhood, too. She'd been assaulted as a child, neglected by her mother. Her young life was riddled with abuse and violence. By the time she was working the streets, Robin had no family she could call for help, and she was only 17 years old herself. Robin was known to be violent and combative. She would attack grown men who mouthed off to her. Just like Carl, she too became a suspect in Doreen's murder. Carl stood in Robin's way of controlling the entire red light district, pretty much. It's said that both Robin and Carl, since they controlled the sex workers on the streets, wanted Doreen not to work there unless she was willing to pay for protection from either one of them. As Doreen was a very pretty girl, she got a lot of clients, so they were pissed, right? Because they're taking money away from their girls. Doreen was, supposedly. Now, this is the motive that the police are developing. Karen Mardsen was another young woman working the streets in Fall River. She had briefly worked for Carl for about a year. She had a 2-year-old boy named Jay that she was caring for, and she ended up losing custody because of her drug addiction, but she visited him at his foster home all the time. He was her world. And yes, she really struggled with drug problems. She used sex work to support herself and her habit. Karen ended up getting into a romantic relationship with Robin Murphy. Now, Karen's only 19 at the time, and Robin is 17, because a lot of people want to bring up the age difference. I'm sorry. I don't think 19 and 17 is that big a gap.
Yeah.
I just don't.
It could be like a
and they're
year and
both
a half.
girls. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's less predatory. Now, you might say it is predatory because Robin is a pimp, and I would agree with you on that. When friends and former boyfriends of Karen's were interviewed, they said she told them something terrible. She said she'd witnessed Carl Drew smash a girl's head in with rocks under the bleachers of the high school. She said she was afraid of him and started carrying around holy water in her pocket. Karen feared that she was going to be killed because of what she'd seen. She didn't go to police because sex workers there believed the cops were corrupt, because they fucking were. Karen claimed that Carl threatened, quote, they would party with her son if she tried to leave, go to the police, or run her mouth. And what he was implying is that they would molest her son and rape her son. And the baby was 2, like 1 or 2 years old. Eventually, Karen would speak to police about what she'd witnessed. She brought up Satan and a cult many times in her interviews. Word got out right away that the murder had been a ritualistic satanic cult murder. Karen said Carl would take them to the Freetown State Forest and make her and other girls that worked for him worship Satan. Freetown State Forest was frequently littered with things like upside-down crosses and other satanic graffiti, things carved into trees, pentagrams made out of rocks, that sort of stuff. There were rumors of satanic cult activity. But was it all a part of the satanic panic that started with the Charles Manson murders? You guys have to remember that this period of time in the late 70s and all the way into the 90s, satanic panic was going crazy.
Yeah.
And
And it was really grabbing the headlines and the news and
we're
all
talking
that.
mainstream news. This wasn't like QAnon people.
No.
Although that it does feel similar.
Well, and it
to
even
me.
there was politicians and stuff that would bring it up too.
Oh, yeah. And you had district attorneys all over the country pursuing satanic cult stuff like mad, especially during election years. So just earmark that and keep that in mind.
Did you say earmark?
Earmark it. Put a little.
Wow, interesting. I've never heard that.
You've never heard the word? Oh, my God. Okay. It was said that Carl Drew used Satanism as a tool of control and manipulation over the girls that worked under him. He would call himself the son of Satan. Karen claimed that Carl took her to a hotel room where she was forced to undergo a ritual. She had blood dripped on her, and they chanted all around her. According to investigators, this wasn't a traditional or organized satanic cult, but rather the invention of Carl Drew as a mean to control his girls through fear. Karen was convinced that Carl was going to sacrifice her son to the devil, and Karen swiftly became incoherent in her interviews and refused to name him to police officially. She was too afraid of Carl. So when she talks to police, she never says it's Carl, she says someone. I just want to make that clear. One detective had taken her into protective custody, obviously to keep her safe because she believed her life was in danger, but she denied this and said she wanted to go to church instead. So the police dropped her off at a church, having no way of knowing it would be the last time anyone saw her alive.
Oh my God.
Karen's grandfather called police the following day to report her missing. Investigators immediately feared she was dead. Carl Drew was an immediate suspect in her disappearance. A friend of Karen's later let investigators listen in on her phone calls to Robin Murphy. This friend was named Sonny. Robin was then arrested for her involvement in Karen's disappearance. Robin decided to make a deal with prosecutors. She would testify for prosecution in exchange for a lighter sentence. Robin told the prosecution that Carl Drew used Satanism to control the women that worked for him. Robin claimed to have been forced into the Satanism as well by Carl Drew. She told investigators and the district attorney that Karen told her that Carl wanted to make a sacrifice to Satan and that Doreen was the one he wanted to kill. Karen had been forced to participate in this murder. Karen said Carl forced her to smash Doreen over the head with a rock. Robin denied any involvement in Doreen's death. It's believed that Carl killed Karen because she'd participated in and witnessed the murder of Doreen Levesque. Robin said that February 8th was when Karen was killed. She claimed to be present. Robin said that Carl demanded that both her and Karen get in a vehicle on the night of February 8th. The car was driven by Carol Fletcher, one of the sex workers working for Carl. A man named Carl Davis, who was involved in the drug scene, and he was an associate of Carl's, and Willie Smith, and if you remember him, he let Doreen use his apartment to entertain clients. And so all these people pile in this car, along with Karen and Robin. They drove to a wooded area in Westport. Carl told Robin to get Karen out of the car. And please, this is where all the trigger warnings just about come in.
God damn it.
When she did so, she said she punched Karen in the face and proceeded to yank all of her hair out.
Oh my God.
Then Robin was told to drag Karen into the woods. Once deeper into the woods, Carl told Robin to cut Karen's throat. All of the people present in the car were told to participate in what happened next. Karen's head was cut off, and sex acts were performed on her headless body. Robin said she participated in this. She said they kicked her head around like a soccer ball after they were done. Investigators went to the scene and did find blood, some teeth and hair, and found drag marks. Now, I couldn't find when they found these particular things, so I would like to add that, the research on this was very difficult because this case is all over the place. Literally everyone has a different story, and there's a lot of conflicting information, but I believe when they said they went to the scene and found hair, blood, and teeth, and some clothes, it's when they found Karen's body months later. So I do not believe that Robin led them to the scene, and later in interviews she did not. They just showed her pictures. She was later taken to the scene by police, but this was after Karen's body was found. So I just want to throw that out there.
Because there probably wouldn't have been as much evidence, especially as much blood over that long period of time.
In April of 1980, Karen's skull and a few teeth were found, and her body was never discovered. All three men were indicted on first-degree murder charges: Carl Drew, Carl Davis, and Willie Smith. As Robin turned state's evidence, she got charged with manslaughter. Carol, the driver, also turned state's witness and got a lighter sentence, like aiding and abetting or something like that. The investigation, arrests, and subsequent trial took the media by storm. Everyone was afraid, and satanic panic was in full swing. Carl Drew said that police never really interviewed him properly prior to his arrest and claims his innocence to this day. Carl was convicted of Karen's murder and sentenced to life in prison with no chance of parole. But was any of it even true? were the wrong people convicted of the murder of Karen Mardsen. Initially, Carl Drew, who was 26 at the time, was charged with the murder of 17-year-old Doreen Levesque and 20-year-old Karen Mardsen. The prosecution decided they didn't have any evidence against Carl for Doreen's case. The only evidence was secondhand, testimony that Karen had said that he had killed Doreen. So they couldn't even charge him with it. However, during his trial for Karen's murder, that meant they could use Doreen's murder against him without having to prove reasonable doubt. Do you see what I'm saying?
Because Karen said something about it before she died.
Exactly.
So they could just at least use the fact that she had said something about it.
That's right.
Implementing him.
Mm-hmm. But did she?
Oh.
She never named him officially. Never.
Right.
So then it's all hearsay and shouldn't have even been admissible. But we'll get to all that. Oh, listen. Don't think you know. You don't know. So they mentioned that Doreen's death and Karen witnessing it would have been the motive. Without that, there's no motive for Carl to have killed Karen. It gave weight to the charge of Karen's murder. They had no forensic evidence tying Carl to either of the murders. The car, the rental car, no forensic evidence was found inside, no blood. And you mean to tell me they decapitated a woman and none of them had blood on them? They kicked her head around like a soccer ball. Not one single person got blood in that car? I don't buy it. So yeah, they had no forensic evidence tying Carl to either of the murders, just Robin's testimony. Robin, who was 17 years old, she made very extreme claims that somehow there was no hard evidence to back any of it up. And we're going to get to our theories later and Robin's confession about her confession. The night that Doreen Levesque was murdered, Carl had been attending a wedding, and there are photos that show him present that night. He could not have killed Doreen. Carl's defense attorney was inexperienced. Carl, at age 26, was illiterate. He could neither read nor write. He didn't know that his lawyer, John Burkus, had never worked a murder case before. And he never has since, by the way. Carl claims to not really know Willie Smith or Carl Davis. He knew of them, was kind of acquaintances, but never hung out with them. Carol Fletcher, who was supposed to be the driver and witness the murder of Karen, she was given immunity for her testimony against the men. And later, she recants her shit, too. The night Karen was murdered, she and Robin were seen at the home of Karen's son's foster parents between 7:45 and 8:30 p.m. Robin arrived home at 10 p.m. without Karen. That only gave her a little less than 2 hours to help commit the murder. Robin claimed they hitchhiked downtown, and that's where they were confronted by Carl and told to get in the car that Carol was driving. This drive took 20 minutes. Then the drive to the woods took 30 minutes, one way. It really doesn't give them enough time, because if she is like out on the streets again at 8:30, she has an hour and a half to get there and back, murder someone, and help dispose her and burn her body to
and
cinders.
have sex with it.
And then have sex with it. All that stuff in an hour and a half. Didn't happen.
Yeah. That's so weird to say all of that.
Oh, we'll get to why. Karen may be the most diabolical genius to ever have lived.
The one that died?
Not Karen. I'm sorry, not Karen. Robin.
Oh, okay.
There's a lot of names.
Yeah.
Many believe that instead of Carl and the others being there, Robin made up that part of the story. They believe it's more likely she took Karen out to the woods and killed her alone and then burned her body. Timeline-wise, it's still really iffy. It's still iffy to me. I don't think she could have done it, but it makes more sense than the rest of this crazy crap. Just does. And naturally, Robin's story constantly changed. She was never consistent. She could never keep it consistent. As for Carol Fletcher, the supposed driver, she was never cross-examined by the defense at trial. There was no forensic evidence in that car. Carl claimed to have been at a bar at the time of Karen's murder, and he said he was seen by a lot of people. Like it was a popular bar. He was hanging out there. It was like a Saturday or Friday night.
When wasn't he at the wedding earlier?
He was at the wedding for Doreen's murder. He was at a bar while Karen was being murdered.
Gotcha.
But these alibis were never brought up at trial. And here's why. Carl's defense attorney, John Burkus, hired a private investigator to find these alibis. And this private investigator went out to the bar, interviewed all these people, and took all this testimony. But John Burkus didn't follow up with that until a year later. And when he did, he found out that the private investigator he hired had died.
Like of normal things?
Yeah, of normal things. Yeah, natural causes. He was an older man, and I think he had a heart attack, and he just died.
Wow.
So he hired a new private investigator. But now it's been a year, and people don't remember things. So effectively, Carl's alibi was ruined.
Yeah.
The only real forensic evidence presented was a ring given by Carl Drew to his then girlfriend, Leah Johnson. It was a ring that had belonged to Karen. Leah said that she got it the same day that Karen died.
Oh, that's creepy.
But it probably wasn't Karen's ring. Leah assumed it was, but Carl never said it was. Karen's mother on the witness stand said the ring was her daughter's. But let's be honest, this testimony and evidence is flimsy as fuck. Still, it was pretty damning evidence during his trial.
Yeah.
Leah would later recant the entire thing. Paul Carey was a former investigator that worked the Karen Mardsen case. He is now, well, until his death, he passed away a couple years ago, but he championed Carl Drew's innocence. He would later interview Leah Johnson, who said that she made the thing up about the ring because the cops pressured her to. So that's another piece of evidence that doesn't hold up. Mm-hmm. After finding Leah Thompson and interviewing her, Paul interviewed Carol Fletcher, the driver of the car, if you recall, and the witness to Karen's murder. Carol said that it was Robin who told her that Carl Drew was a Satanist, even taking her to places saying that was where Carl planned on killing them in a satanic ritual. Carol, when interviewed recently, she confessed that Carl Drew and the other men hadn't even been there. She finally confessed that she lied to police at Carl's trial. Mm-hmm. Then she told an entirely different story to Paul Carey. She said the night of Karen's murder, she actually picked up Karen, and they were driving around, like, getting cigarettes and stuff like that. Karen told her that she had witnessed Doreen's murder, but would not tell Carol who else had been there. Karen didn't name Carl. After they hung out for a bit, Karen left the car to go work. She was picked up by a client in a green sedan and left. And then Carol went to a place called Harvard Terrace. It was an apartment complex that a mutual friend, Sonny, who I mentioned earlier, lived at, and a lot of people hung out there. And so she knew that after Karen was done working, she would go back to this apartment complex. So that's where she headed to. And she believed that Karen would be there, and she saw her there. And that's where the murder happened, on the roof of the Harbor Terrace building. It was there that Robin pulled a knife on Karen. Carol claims to have left right after that and did not witness the murder itself. So she concocted the story when police interviewed her after Karen's friend Sonny came forward. She manipulated the DA and investigators to save her butt. But it just gets more complicated. Willie Smith and Carl Davis's charges were just quietly dropped. They never made it to trial. At Robin's parole hearing, she did confess to making up the story. She claimed she'd never killed anyone. She was given her parole in 2004. And Carl, well, he's still in prison for a murder he likely didn't commit. I don't think that Robin killed Karen. I think everyone in this case has lied. Multiple times. Mm-hmm. Robin's freedom didn't last long. In 2007, she got into a romantic relationship with another felon. This was a violation of the terms of her parole, and she was sent back to prison in 2011 and has since been denied any further parole.
They can do that?
Yep.
Because of who you're fucking?
Yep.
That's weird.
I looked it up.
That's weird. I think
it's kind of bullshit.
Yeah, it's kind of bullshit.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. On the documentary Fall River, Robin told her side of things. At age 11, she was raped by a man named Andy Maltus. He was 44 when he sexually assaulted her. Shortly after she turned 16, she gave birth to a son. The father was likely Andy. She moved in with a woman named Sunny Sparta. We've already talked about Sunny. And then the two of them became lovers, and this is how Robin got to know everyone involved in this case. Sonny was also a friend of Karen's, who turned Robin into the police for Karen's murder. She met Carl, Robin did, at her weed dealer's house, and they immediately did not fucking like each other. Robin heard all the rumors about Carl and the way he treated women, and she just fucking didn't. She couldn't stand him. Later, like, they got into a verbal argument, and he open-handedly slapped her across the face. And she's a little thing.
That's like a real 70s pimp.
Yeah, she's like a little thing, too. Now, there's all these stories about how violent she was. I'm sure, but...
Well,
still,
you have to be scrappy.
You do if you live on the street. You have to defend yourself.
Yeah.
So... yeah, clearly they're enemies, obviously.
Right.
Robin heard all the rumors about Carl, but none of them involved Satanism. Later, Carl would bring Karen to Sonny's house, and that's where Robin was living, and that's where Robin met and fell in love with Karen. Karen told
Robin was in love with Karen?
Yeah, they were lovers. I said that at the beginning.
I didn't remember that part, sorry.
Yeah, no, it's fine. Karen told lots of stories about how violent and abusive he was. She said once Carl had taken her to a Holiday Inn, choked her out, and when she came to, he was dripping blood on her. So that's where that story came from. Oh. And people misheard it and associated that with satanic stuff when he was just being a fucking weirdo. He was probably all coked out. It was his blood. He like cut his hand or something. He was being weird, you know?
Gotcha.
Yeah. Karen was deathly afraid of Carl and had clearly had a relationship with him while he was her pimp. They had a romantic relationship, and she was just terrified of him. He was very violent. Robin was never a pimp, according to her. She was a street-smart kid looking to prove herself. She got into fights, she scrapped, but she was a child sex assault victim. Her child had been the product of rape. Robin was trafficked, just like the others, just like Doreen, Karen, and Sonny.
So did they just call her a pimp because she just wouldn't be worked by anybody else?
Yep.
So because she was like her own boss, they called her a pimp?
Yep.
Because she pimped herself?
Yes. She had no beef with Carl about girls. She had no beef with other girls.
Yeah.
She didn't like Carl because he was a piece of shit.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I'm so confused. Who killed Karen?
Who killed Doreen?
Yeah.
And there's going to be another victim before we're done.
No.
Mm-hmm. Karen did occasionally tell people she thought Carl might have killed Doreen. But I don't think she was being honest. I think she was being vindictive. I do believe she knew who killed Doreen.
And
it wasn't
wanted
Carl.
Him to look bad.
But she wanted Carl out of her life because she was scared of him and that he would hurt her son. And so she wanted him to get the murder pinned on him.
I get that. She's like, he's already violent. He could have done it, and he couldn't.
No, she was there. Karen was there for the murder of Doreen, for sure. We'll get to that in a minute. And that's why she died.
Yeah, yeah, of course.
But it wasn't Carl. But we'll get to who I think it is in a minute. Before Karen's murder, Robin had witnessed the death of another sex worker. So before we go any further, and not witness, but she had heard about it from the person.
Wait, it was
before
before Karen or after Karen?
Before Karen's murder. She had heard witness testimony about the death of another sex worker.
Okay.
So before we go any further, we have to talk about the murder of Barbara Raposa, who was a 19-year-old sex worker, single mother, and woman who struggled with addiction issues. She was reported missing on November 7th, 1979, when she failed to pick up her child from the babysitters. And her body was found on January 26, 1980, in a wooded area that had been used as a lover's lane. A man walking his dog found her body. Her face had been smashed in by a cement block. Her arms, like her wrists and her ankles, were bound with fishing line just like Doreen's. And her body was found before the pieces of Karen's skull were found.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Investigators went to the red light district in Fall River to investigate Barbara's murder and to try and find out who did it. So, of course, the first person they talked to is Andy Maltese, the same man who assaulted Robin when she was only 11 years old. Oh. He was Barbara's boyfriend.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. Barbara had started dating him when she was only 17, and he was in his 40s. She got pregnant with his baby in high school.
Oh my God.
The night Barbara disappeared, she'd been leaving Andy. She had someone else she was interested in romantically, and she was leaving him for someone else. And this made Andy the prime suspect. He had the motive, and he definitely did it according to Robin Murphy. Andy was also acting really suspicious. He kept going to the police station with theories and ideas on Barbara's disappearance before her body was found. Once he came into the police station carrying a Bible, and this was after her body was found, and he said he was a man of God now, but that he used to belong to Satan. And this is how he gets roped into the satanic panic bullshit.
Wow, this is so theatrical.
It's crazy.
It's very over the top.
The police then urged him to confess to the murder of Barbara. They took him, at his request, to the scene of the crime where they found her body. Andy told police he'd witnessed her murder in a dream, and that he'd had a vision about it. And then he described the vision with details only the killer would know, so the police took this as a confession.
I was wondering what he thought he was going to do with that.
I don't know. And immediately, Andy Maltese was arrested for the murder of Barbara Raposa. Mm-hmm. After Andy's arrest, Robin came forward to police and told them that Andy had confessed to her as well. He told Robin, after Barbara went missing, that her body was laying somewhere in the woods. And he knew because angels carried him over a wooded area, and that's when he witnessed Barbara's murder.
Well, that's normal. That happens to me all the time.
He said he saw her head being smashed in.
Oh, my God.
And that's exactly what Robin told the police. However, that's not eyewitness testimony. That's not really a confession. That's a guy saying he had a weird, fucked up dream.
Yeah.
Not really admissible in court. And so the police kept urging her to say more, to implicate him further. They were urging her along. And she said, would it make a difference if I said I was in the car with them and that I saw it from the car? And they said yes, so that's exactly what she did. Now, why would Robin lie? Well, that's the man who raped her when she was 11. She said it wasn't justice for herself, that she wanted to put him away so he would never molest or rape another little girl. Mm-hmm. And you know what? Mm-hmm. I don't know if I can say that's wrong. Mm-hmm. The only reason I think it's wrong is that if he hadn't killed Barbara, then we'll never know who did.
Right.
But I think he absolutely killed Barbara, and we'll get to that in a little bit on why I think that. Without Robin Murphy's testimony, Andy Maltese would have never been convicted. Robin said later that she did that for justice, and I get it. Did Andy Maltese kill Barbara Raposa? Well, we'll just never really fucking know. He was convicted of it, sentenced to life in prison, and then he died almost immediately after because he was in poor health. He had had a bunch of strokes. So let's go back to the night that Karen died, February 8th. Robin was at Sonny Sparta's apartment where she lived. Robin stated her intent was to cheat on Karen with Sonny. And that's why she left her. They went their separate ways. They'd had a fight, like an argument. Not even a big one, but she was just kind of, she was 17 years old. Robin looked for her all the next day, but was never able to find her and never saw her again because she died the night they separated. Robin stated to the director of the docuseries Fall River that Carl had said he was going to kill Karen. Karen told Robin that Carl threatened to kill her. So to her, she's just assuming, Robin is, that Carl has killed her girlfriend.
It's safe to assume that.
He had made, and this isn't just threats he made in front of Robin.
Yeah.
He made that threat a lot, like at parties and around other people. He had beaten her before. He choked her out. She was terrified of him.
Right.
He did make threats against her kid. Now, of course, he can come today and say that's all talk and all, bullshit. I don't think he killed Karen. Yeah. I absolutely think he should be in jail. Yeah. Maybe not anymore, but for all that shit he did to women, maybe he should just never get out, but we'll get to that in a minute. Sonny and Robin, along with the police, made up the story. And here's how we know. So, Sonny's apartment was a place where police would meet with informants. All the time.
What?
Now, normally when police meet with informants, they do use kind of a secure location. But they don't usually use a sex worker's apartment.
Yeah.
And they don't usually buy cocaine and marijuana for those sex workers.
And probably get laid too.
And give them money and cigarettes. Wow. Maybe when they see them on the street, they don't pick them up and arrest them. So when these murders happen, the DA is putting massive pressure on the cops to find out who did it. And instead of finding out who did it, they concocted this bullshit. And I don't mean they sat there and say, okay, here's what you're going to say, see? Is that they dropped little breadcrumb hints of what they wanted to hear.
Right.
Because of course this
coerced it.
Well, of course it looks satanic. Smashed a girl's face in and tied her up in the baseball bat. Are you fucking kidding me? That is heinous. You would think only evil could do this. Only Satan could do this. But let's be honest, folks. I ain't never seen the devil do jack shit, but I seen men do the most evil fucking crap that you can even imagine. Stuff I can't even imagine.
Exactly.
So let's just say, keep Satan out of it. But I get why they did that. I mean, we got full swing satanic panic.
Yeah, absolutely.
It gets the paper headlines.
The jury.
It gets the jury, and it gets that DA reelected. We'll talk about him in a minute.
God.
The DA, Ronald Pena, was approaching an election campaign, and there was intense pressure on him to solve these 3 homicides of sex workers. And it was the DA that gave Robin the idea to include Satanism. Robin said there was never any Satanism. She even laughed and said nobody worships the fucking devil.
Yeah.
Because they don't.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, there's some 13-year-old edgelords that do.
Yeah, but when you're on the street, who has time?
They on the street and they are hustling. They don't have time to worship the devil and do all this elaborate weird shit.
Yeah.
She said it never even, she never even thought about it.
I figured.
But the DA mentioned it, and she was like, okay, bet, I'm going to run with that. Because she was convinced Carl had done this.
Yeah.
But in order to make it convincing, she also had to implicate herself. So that's interesting. She said that the narrative was entirely pushed by Ronald Pena, excuse me. Robin then pled guilty to second-degree murder and was told by prosecutor Ken Sullivan that she'd be out in about 12 years. Robin is still incarcerated today, folks. He told her that she'd like it in prison because she was gay.
Oh, my goodness.
And then he said to her, but if you don't do it my way and you get out when you're 50, ain't nobody likes a 50-year-old woman.
Jesus Christ.
What a disgusting prick.
50-year-old women are hot. Shut up. God.
God.
I know.
This just makes me so
I hate
mad.
that prison comment, too, because
It's just nasty.
it is.
It's just nasty. What the fuck is wrong with you? So, the docu-series, I hesitate to recommend it.
Yeah.
Number one, it's all over the fucking place. Number two, they interview people who I don't think should have been interviewed. For example, this guy comes forward. He was about 4 or 5 years old when the murder of Karen happened, and he said he witnessed it when he was a little boy. That he had wandered up to the roof, and he saw Carl Davis, Sonny, Sparta, and Robin murder Karen.
How's a 5-year-old going to know all that?
It's bullshit. But let's go back to Andy, shall we?
The little boy?
No, Andy.
Oh, Andy, the 40...
The child molester. Yes. He had a history, a criminal history, that wasn't made known during his trial and wasn't really brought up till this documentary was made. And the reason for that is back in the 70s, they didn't have computers, and their databases were paper.
Right.
So if you got in trouble in Maryland, for example, well, you just hop on over to Massachusetts.
Yep. Absolutely.
They did not, the jurisdictions, that was a thing back then, like over state lines, I'm good now.
It wasn't too long ago. I remember thinking that way in high school.
Oh, honey, no. So his history was that he liked to take underage girls into the woods, bind their wrists and ankles in fishing line,
Jesus.
and then sexually assault them. This was never mentioned in his trial.
And there were several other assaults documented?
Yes, that he went to prison for.
Oh, my God.
And he bound them with fishing line. What was Doreen bound with? Fishing line. What was Barbara bound with? Fishing line. And I bet you Karen, if her body had been found, would have been bound with that too. He also liked to carry around a little bag of tricks, as he liked to call it.
Ew.
It was a bag of sex toys, restraints,
Ew.
gags, that sort of thing.
It's
a rape kit.
Yeah.
It's a fucking rape kit. When his car was searched, the same type of fishing line that had bound Doreen and Barbara were found in his trunk. It's also important to note that guilty people will frequently try to help police and get involved in the investigation. Sometimes it's out of guilt, not in his case, but most of the time it's to see what police know.
And to like seed other ideas to get them to veer off.
Throw them off track because you think you're so fucking smart. Andy wasn't smart, he was an idiot.
Did he ever get chummy with police?
Yes. In fact, he had a friend on the police force.
I figured
Wow,
that
what
was
a
it.
surprise.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yep. So I believe that's the case with Andy Maltese. I believe it's probable that he murdered at least Doreen and Barbara. But I think he murdered Karen too. And what wasn't brought up in his trial, but should have been, because he should have been charged with Doreen's murder, is that he had been seeing her romantically. Or trying to.
17-year-old.
She's 17 years old. After Doreen was killed, Andy went to police and came to them claiming to have information on Doreen's murder.
Of course you do.
But then when they kind of like took him into an informal interview to talk to him about it, he's like, I don't really know anything. I just want to talk about the case. Like a freak. Don't do that.
That's creepy.
It is creepy. Again, see, he's inserting himself. Mm-hmm. And do I need to mention he was a pedophile? Because the thing is, because Robin has lied so much, a lot of people don't believe that he assaulted her when she was 11. He assaulted her up until he went to jail. This was a constant thing. Mm-hmm. And he did the same thing to her friend, her best childhood friend. So there are multiple girls that have come up with charges against him. Multiple. Andy's dream about Barbara was full of details only the killer would know. Right. For example, he said her head was smashed in with a cinder block. Nobody would know that unless they were there. Police never released that information. Mm-hmm. There were some people that said Karen told others that Andy was the one who killed Doreen, and if she ever named anyone, she only ever named Andy, and that she had been present because Karen was also in a romantic relationship with Andy. God. He was like a client, and then it kind of became a more long-term thing. Right. And Robin even recalled once when she was in the hospital, and she was in the hospital a lot because she was always getting into fights, that Karen had come to see her, and Andy was with her. Karen thought that was, Robin thought that was weird. Yeah. She asked Karen, like, why is he here? She's like, oh, he just gave me a ride. But then it clicked for her. Mm-hmm.
That's so hurtful.
And in addition, Karen's grandmother, and she told this to police, said that Andy had threatened Karen. He said that if people thought he had killed Doreen, he would kill Karen. Andy had no alibi for any of the murders. But investigators thought he did. For Karen's, at least. Although he was briefly a suspect in that one as well. Investigators thought that Andy was in jail on the day Karen was murdered, and he was. But he got out on bail about 4 hours before Karen was murdered. So he definitely could have done it.
Oh my God. They let him do that.
Uh-huh. And also I don't feel the docuseries really went into the level of police corruption in this. Mm-hmm. Because even the police, like, when confronted with obvious lies, are just like, oh, what?
Yeah.
Like, ask more hard questions, okay? Ugh.
It's the weaponized incompetence for me.
All three women had their skulls crushed. Andy had the motive. But what about the witness, the kid who saw Robin, Carl Davis, and Sonny on the roof killing Karen? Well, he was likely 4 or 3 years old. There's no way he could have made it to the roof. Like, it was locked. The door handle was too far up for him to reach. And Robin said she had never even been to the roof of Harbor Terrace. And I believe her. Carl Davis died a few years back from a drug overdose, so we can't ask him if he was involved because he's dead. Sonny Sparta refuses to talk to the press. Carl Drew is still in prison to this day. He has run out of appeals. And his case was not taken on by the Innocence Project because I'm going to assume pressure from the DA.
Yeah.
They don't want to redo this case.
Yeah.
This is going to make them look real fucking bad. Maybe in about 20 more years they'll consider it.
Once everybody's dead.
Yeah. They'll exonerate him once he's fucking dead. And you know what? I get it. He is not an exemplary human being. Carl Drew is not a good man. He is guilty of shit.
He should definitely be in prison, but for the crimes
rape.
that he did commit.
For rape.
Yes.
For all the rapes he committed, of which there were many, of all the women he beat and terrorized. But he does not need to be in jail for murder. And at this point, he should probably be released. He has spent most of his life in jail. Like this is almost 45 years ago now. It's like 44 years ago.
Yeah.
So that's that case. Satan had nothing to do with it. And I think you're going to find in most of the cases we cover this month, it's about like that. I do have I think a killer who was inspired by Satan, but they were just really mentally ill. And I think you're going to run into either it was painted as a satanic murder case, or we're going to get into Satan whispered in my ear, but I am actually just really mentally ill. But I find it interesting. The Satanic Panic is fascinating,
right? Because
when it happened in the 70s, especially. A Summer of Love was over. The 60s hippie shit was done because STDs were really on the rise. And then what really killed it was the Charles Manson murders.
Right.
Freaked everybody out. It looked satanic to them. It wasn't a satanic cult, but it was a cult. And that freaked people out. He was really
creepy.
Yeah.
He had them wild eyes, so everybody thought it was
I'm everywhere. I'm in your fridge. Yeah, fuck that guy. Yeah. Really scary shit. And I do believe he deserved to be in prison till the day he died. Absolutely. But that's what kicked it off. Everyone wants to say it was Dungeons and Dragons. No. Satanic Panic was already in full swing. And then you had Alice Cooper, Kiss, stuff like that. Parents were just pearl clutching and getting the vapors. And, every generation you will hear, the moral decline of the fabric of society because the youngins are just sinful.
I love all the Christians getting mad about satanic,
imagery
and things in pop culture right now. Like, they hate Billie Eilish.
Oh, of course they do.
Like, they hate Megan Thee Stallion. It's just like everybody's so Satan, devil worshiping.
Well, what have pop stars always done? What does counterculture always turn to? Well, Satan.
Yeah,
because it's funny.
It's hot.
Literally or figuratively.
Yeah, both. It's dark, and dark is
we like that.
Delicious. There's that appeal to it.
But I just want to be real clear so we all understand together. The Democrats in the government aren't eating babies because that's stupid. It's stupid. It's dumb. Lizard people are not controlling the government, and that's an anti-Semitic story anyway. The Save the Children stuff is done by Russian troll farms, and child sex trafficking is a huge fucking problem.
It's a real big deal.
Do you want to know how to fix it? Because I actually have the answer. You end poverty. You don't end Satanism because Satanism isn't a thing. Quit trying to make it a thing. It's not a thing. Are there Satanists? Well, of course there are. Yeah. Are there people who kill in the name of Satan? Sure. Yeah. But it's not an epidemic. In fact, people kill in the name of God more than they ever killed in the name of the devil.
I'm saying.
Ooh, that gave me the chills. I felt that.
I know. My ancestors were like, yes. Yes.
Preach. Yes. And, I make a lot of tongue-in-cheek remarks. I've gotten emails where people are like, "Oh, you satanic woman." No.
Really?
Yeah. It's a joke, y'all. Yeah. I'm not sure I believe the devil's real.
Biblically, I think God is such a douchebag that I think the alternative is so much funner.
I know. That's just not my religion, so I can't really comment on it. Christians, I like Satan as a joke.
Yeah. I
like to call him Spicy Daddy because it makes people uncomfy.
Yeah.
And I think that's funny to me.
I remember growing up in the church, and I always thought that that God was kind of douchey.
Scared
He's
of God.
Really scary. He's going to kill everybody. But Satan just takes all the bad guys and put them where he
In jail.
belongs.
So Satan's the garbage man? Is that what you're telling me?
What's so bad about taking the trash out?
Okay, so check. This is a fun little Lillian story.
Lillian.
Very small Lillian. I was in preschool. I was 5, and I loved dinosaurs more than anything on the face of this earth.
What's your favorite?
I can't remember the name of it now, but
Yeah.
if you showed it to me, it was like they had kind of a duck face. And
Yes,
they were
I love
plant
that one.
eaters. I was
Yes.
like, oh, it's just cute.
Yes.
I also like T-Rex.
Yeah.
Because it's mean. And pterodactyls because they can fucking fly, and that's
I
cool.
love pterodactyls. Anytime I'm sad, I imagine a T-Rex trying to make his bed, and I feel better.
Well, it makes me sad because, you can't do it.
Can't do it.
It's very ableist of you, Willow.
I'm sorry. I just think how cute it is.
Anyway, so I went to preschool, and the only preschool around where I lived at the time was a Catholic preschool. I was raised completely secular. I had no religion, anything. I didn't know what it was. So I'm sitting there thinking, it's dinosaur day at preschool. I don't know what I want to go draw with the dinosaurs. I want to pretend to be a dinosaur and chase my friends because it's dinosaur time. But instead, they sang a little song about the devil.
What?
Where it says the devil will sleep on a bed of nails, a bed of nails, a bed of nails. And I started crying. First of all, I did not know what Satan was, but I just thought, that is so mean. He can't sleep that way. It will hurt his back. He will get tetanus shots. He'll have to, or he'll get lockjaw. Because I got told horror stories about stepping on metal as a child. I had to be removed because I was so distraught. I was like, why would the Lord do it? Why would he hurt Satan? What did Satan even do? I don't understand. And everyone was very upset that I was pro-Satan as a child. I just didn't understand. And that violent imagery frightened me. The cross scared me. I was like, wow, he's being tortured. Someone let Jesus down.
Yeah.
Please.
Yeah.
Can it just be dinosaur time?
It's a murder device, and it's real big.
Well, we talk about the indoctrination of children, but can it just be fucking dinosaur time? Please don't religion it at me
It's
when I'm
dino
5.
time.
I want to talk about T-Rexes, and I want to chase my friends making dinosaur sounds. It's wholesome. It's good.
Yes.
Then you're singing about torturing a Satan. I just could not cope. But you know what I can cope with?
Oh.
That's not even scripted, y'all. That's ad-libbed.
Yeah,
That's
it
pure
is.
talent just flowing out of me like golden notes out of my
you're
mouth.
so good.
I know.
very
It's
proud
really
of you.
astounding. Thanks.
Yep.
Shut up. Business time. I don't even remember what I said first. Oh, I can cope with business time. It's fine. Yeah, so what business time do I have today? Look, I got some sleep, if you hadn't noticed.
Yes.
And I'm no longer angry.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm fine today. Oh, I'm a little angry, but not usual, like insane and unhinged. But what I am insane and unhinged about is my soap. Just to let you all know, if you have ordered a mystery box, I will be shipping on Monday, and here's why. So this weekend, starting tomorrow, is Corvette weekend in our town, and you may think, who cares? I'm not driving anywhere.
Oh my God, you guys, the Corvette people. Also, it's a hippie festival.
At the same time, there are two festivals going on. In my population town of 2,000, I will not find anywhere to park. There's going to be 400 accidents, and I'm gonna die. So, plus I have so many orders to pack up. It's just going to take all weekend, but I am shipping Monday. So if you've ordered from me and you're like, where is it? Please send me a message and I'll send you your tracking number as soon as I have it. And you're thinking, but Lillian, I missed out on that pre-order and I'm sad. I am sorry. But the gift sets are sold out. But here's what I can do for you. $25. And it's on my website, so you click on that and order a mystery box. And I guarantee it will include soap from this fall collection. It will include all kinds of stuff from this fall collection, so you will not be disappointed or sad. And you will not miss out on the awesome soap, and you get to be surprised. Now, if there is this scent that you really hate, just include that in a note on your order, and I'll make sure it doesn't have any of that in it. Because that's not a fun surprise to open up if it's a bunch of shit you don't want, right? Like if you like Lillian, I fucking hate cinnamon. And then I give you nothing but cinnamon-based notes. You're just going to be sad.
That was my childhood. I hated the smell of cinnamon candles, and that's what I got. Cinnamon candles.
I remember once for my 16th birthday, I did get a car, so that's fair. But y'all, it wasn't a cool car. It was a 1984 Cutlass Supreme that took up the fucking driveway.
Supreme.
It was a Cutlass Supreme. I could have gotten so many chicks in that anyway.
Yeah.
And I got Wings perfume, which I had told my parents before, I don't like it. When I put it on, it smells like weird eggs. Like flowery eggs. It has an egg note, and I don't like that. Just some perfumes don't go with your body chemistry. What perfume did I get for the next 5 years in a row on my birthday?
Right.
Fucking Wangs. It smelled like chicken, but like the uncooked kind. Anyway, gross. What am I saying? So, order it. Tarot card readings. You may get one from me, but please know I'm like 4 deep. It's going to take me a couple days, but I will get to them. I always do. Willow still needs some assistance. Please go to her GoFundMe. But hey, if you want to read about the situation, but I would prefer if y'all would donate through apps, and I'll tell you, like PayPal, Venmo, Cash App, because GoFundMe just takes, like at this point, it's taken over $100 worth of fees. And I don't want y'all's like donations to go to fees. Fuck that shit. I mean, there's going to be a little fees and transferring shit
like
around.
$1 or $2.
But that's not...
Not with... Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
With GoFundMe, it's a lot.
They take a lot. And I was surprised. They take like 20%.
Yeah.
So, yeah, if you want to help out, please help out via the apps. I understand why people use GoFundMe, and if you have, I am not shaming you at all.
Right.
We appreciate it.
Definitely.
I just want the dollars to stretch further.
I almost am done paying off my lawyer, but I have less than $1 in my bank account right now. So
A bitch needs food, and I'm going to be honest with y'all. Oh, I'm hurting. I will try and feed Willow whenever I can. But like after my car repair, I'm just sort of fucked. It's not a good time money wise.
My car broke down. My phone broke. It's just a whole bunch of stuff.
It's a lot of bad things at once. Yes.
I'm working on finishing up some electroform pieces. I can post that
some jewelry.
in
Patreon. Make
And
that a public post
I will.
too.
I'll make it public and just post what I've started working on, because this is all like my beginner stuff.
Yeah, but once we have some nice profesh photos of those, they will be on my website as well.
And I started an Instagram, so I'll upload to that as well.
Yes, so it's all good.
It's in the works. It's in the making. There is progress, but it's the beginnings, and it's
beginnings
just
are
really hard.
Yes. Also, we have a Patreon, and I just want to say hey to all of our new patrons.
Yes.
Hello.
You're also helping us quite a bit.
And yeah, we'll be doing it, and that's the tea very soon. We do 3 to 4 extra episodes a month for the $5 and up tier. And listen, we have over 300 regular episodes. We have about 160, 170 Patreon episodes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So this is a whole world of content.
There's so much.
And no ads.
There's so much.
And you can skip the business time.
And I
You
saw
don't have to
on Spotify some of our episodes are missing.
And we do not know why.
And I have no idea why. It was the Emmett Till one that someone was looking for.
I didn't see any other missing episodes.
I didn't have the mental energy to go through and count all 300 of them, but
I did.
I bet you did.
Yes, I did.
Well, just in case.
I'm going to guess, because if I remember correctly, we did have some technical difficulties recording the Emmett Till episode, at least the first part. So I'm going to guess that we had some file corruption going on. And Patreon just did a new update, and I'm going to be honest, it's great.
Is it?
It's
Okay,
great.
Good.
If you've been frustrated with Patreon in the past, like if you've been a patron of a podcast and you're frustrated with their app, I feel like they did make some really good improvements.
Good. It needed
But
it.
guess what? If you fucking hate Patreon and you're like, ugh, no, that thing is glitchy as hell. Well, I'm going to have a subscription service through Buzzsprout.
Oh, I didn't. I didn't know that.
That's right. Basically, all it'll only ever be the $5 tier, and you will get the additional episodes that our patrons get, but none of the other perks, because I can't do it via Buzzsprout. It's not the right platform. So if all you're wanting is the extra episodes, well, guess what, friends? That should be available by the time you listen to this.
Cool.
Now, the option is available. You will need to give me like a week or two to start uploading these episodes.
All the episodes, yeah.
Yeah, because I have to, like,
You have to do it individually.
Well, Will uploads for me after they edit. So I'm going to have Will send me all those episodes.
Right.
Yeah.
It's going to be a long process.
And let's be clear right now. They will not be our older episodes. They will be from this month, like from September on.
Oh, gotcha.
Yes, because Will clears out their cache on their computer and to clear up storage. We're not saving the old Patreon
Everything
episodes.
is on Patreon.
Yes, and when I download them from Patreon, the audio quality goes directly into the toilet.
Oh, really?
Yeah, look, I've tried workarounds for all. I've been working on this for like 2 weeks.
Okay.
And so this is what I plan to do. So while you won't get the entire backlog, you will get every new one we make from now on.
Cool.
And I think that is pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
But if all you can do to support this podcast is listen, please know that I appreciate you very much.
Yeah.
I truly do. Means a lot to me. But yeah, if there is a platform that you can get extra episodes on, I'm going to be using Coffee. I'm going to be using Buzzsprout. And I do believe Spotify is rolling out something very soon.
Cool.
So I will put that on there too.
Nice.
Yes. But hey, thank you all so much. I appreciate you. And I'm going to go away. So goodbye.
Bye.
Us on your social media platform of choice. Linktree/cruelty has all of the links. Check out our Patreon for exclusive episodes, merch, ad-free episodes, live ghost hunts, and much more. Please be sure to subscribe. New episodes are uploaded weekly. Thank you so much. See you next time. Music and production by Willie B.